When we got home from our first Alaska cruise, I did something I probably should have done before we left. I sat down and added up everything we actually spent. Cruise fare, the flights, the hotel before the cruise, and the excursions, and we did a lot of excursions. And when I saw the final number, I kind of just looked at it. It wasn't that we had a bad time. Alaska was everything we hoped it would be. But sitting there looking at that number, I kept thinking, there's no way this had cost that much. There had to be a better and smarter way to do this. And my wife looked over at me and said, "So are we ever going to do Alaska again?" I said, "Yes, of course, but next time we're doing it differently." And so this video is everything I wish I'd known before that first trip. How to do an Alaska cruise for a fraction of what we paid without giving up the parts that actually made it worth it. If you're planning an Alaska cruise, you're probably already staring at some pretty big numbers. Here's the thing, the fare is just the beginning. Most people don't realize how much everything around it adds up until they're already home. But what you can get out of this video is a complete picture of what an Alaska cruise actually costs. Not just the fare, but all the things that people don't even think about until it's too late. We're going to talk about when to book, which cruise lines and cabin types give you the best bang for your buck, how to handle flights in your pre-cruise hotel without overpaying, and how to do excursions, including the best free and self-guided options in some of the most popular Alaskan ports, without blowing your entire budget at every one of them. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly where your money goes on an Alaska cruise and how to make smarter decisions at every step before you ever set foot on the ship. And one thing I'll say up front, this isn't about having a cheaper trip, it's about having a smarter one. Oh, and if we haven't met yet, I'm Evan from Family at Sea. If this is your first time watching my channel, I'm glad you're here. And if you've been here a while, you already know how much I appreciate you. If you're ready, I am. Let's go. So let's start with the booking decisions, because this is honestly where most people leave the most money on the table. The first thing to think about is timing. The cheapest Alaska cruises happen during shoulder season, which is late April and May at the start of the season and September at the tail end. And fares during those windows can be significantly cheaper than peak summer sailings. And if you're looking for a cruise with less kids, these are your best bets since school is still in session. The trade-off is real though. It's colder, it's wetter, and some ports have limited hours. But if the budget is the priority, shoulder season is the single easiest way to pay less for the exact same itinerary. And once you've figured out when you want to go, the next decision is which cruise line. And right now, there's one that stands out. MSC is heading to Alaska for the first time this year, and the fares are by far the cheapest you're gonna find. But they're new to Alaska, which means less desirable dock times and locations, possible tenders at some ports, and no Glacier Bay, so if that's a priority, MSC isn't your answer. But if you want the cheapest possible Alaska cruise and you're okay with some trade-offs, it's worth a serious look. But for everyone else, Holland America and Princess have deep roots in Alaska and solid pricing, especially during shoulder season. And there's one more decision before you hit confirm, and it's important as it can have a big impact on your price in Alaska. Your cabin. On a Caribbean cruise, the price jump from interior to balcony is manageable, but in Alaska, it can more than double your price. And look, I love a balcony in Alaska. There's nothing like sitting outside watching glaciers go by from the privacy of your own balcony. But if the budget is the priority, the interior cabin is the right call. The trick is to book a cabin on a higher deck, closer to the stairs and elevators, so you can get outside quickly when something worth seeing comes up. Because look, you're not going to be stuck down there, you're just not paying for the private view. So save that money and spend it where it actually matters. So you've got your cruise booked, now you need to get there, and this is another area where the wrong decision can cost you more than it needs to. Most Alaska cruises depart out of either Seattle or Vancouver. Vancouver is a truly beautiful city and a great port, but flights into Vancouver are almost always more expensive than Seattle. So if you have a choice between the two, Seattle is almost always going to be the smarter move from a budget standpoint. When it's time to book your flights, I highly recommend heading over to Google Flights, plug in your dates, and use the price counter to see if shifting by a day or two saves you real money. It'll even show you whether the current prices are high, low, or average. If they're higher than what Google thinks they should be, as long as you still have time to book, I recommend setting a price tracker, and Google will let you know when the prices drop. For your hotel, my general rule is to stick to 3-star properties at major chains like Marriott, Hilton, or IHG. There's no need to book a fancy hotel, but the major chains have brand standards they have to meet, so you know what you're walking into and not rolling the dice on some boutique property that looked great in photos but turned out to be a nightmare. Location wise, most people default to booking near Pike Place or the waterfront in Seattle because it feels like the right Seattle experience. And it's a great area, but you're going to pay for it. The cruise terminal is actually south of downtown, so staying near Soto or even close to SeaTac can save you a meaningful amount of money. And you won't be fighting downtown traffic on embarkation morning either. While you're on the Google Flights website, just click the hotels button at the top and it'll help you search for the best hotel prices as well without even having to leave the site. Filter by price and map the distance before you book so you don't end up too far and end up spending all the money you save on a hotel with a more expensive Uber ride to the port. Once you've booked your cruise and booked your travel, the last area you really need to be careful with your budget is with excursions. And I'll be honest, if you're going to splurge anywhere on Alaska cruise, excursions are it. You can put me on a cold shoulder season cruise and then interior cabin, but some of the excursions in Alaska are absolutely incredible. But you can still do things on a budget and still have a great time. Where a lot of people blow their budget is with the cruise line excursions, and I get it. They're right there. You can book them from the cruise line app, and there's a voice in the back of your head saying, if I book through the ship, they'll wait for me if we're late getting back. And that fear, and that's what it is, fear, keeps a lot of people paying double what they need to for an overcrowded bus tour with 50 other passengers. But here's the reality. Missing the ship is not a rational fear if you plan even a little. Ships don't leave early. They post departure times clearly. You get reminders, and as long as you're paying attention and give yourself a buffer, you're not getting left behind. I've done more than 100 private excursions, and I've never even been close to being late. That said, if the peace of mind genuinely matters to you, there's a better option than booking through the cruise line. Shore Excursions Group offers private and small group excursions at a fraction of what the ship charges, and they have a back-to-ship guarantee, so if something does go wrong, and it's not likely that it will, but if it does, and you do miss the ship, they'll not only get you to the next port, they'll also pay you $1,000 for the inconvenience. So you're getting a better experience, paying less, and actually have more protection than you do with a cruise line excursion. And that's hard to argue with. If you're interested, I've included a link in the pinned comment below where you can take a look at all of the different excursion options. But if you really want to stretch your dollar further in Alaska, the ports themselves give you a lot to work with for free. Juneau is one of the best ports on the itinerary for doing it on your own. The most obvious thing, and it's worth doing, is walking downtown. The Gold Belt tram is right there, and it's a popular excursion, but you can hike the Mount Roberts Trail for free and end up in the same exact place. It's about 1.5 miles, and the views are genuinely stunning. Mendenhall Glacier is another big one. It's about 12 miles from downtown, so you need to grab a cab or shuttle, but the glacier itself and the visitor center are free. There's a short trail to Nugget Falls that puts you right up close to the glacier, and it's one of the better things you can do in Alaska without spending a dime. Just budget for the ride out there. And the other underrated free option is just walking the South Franklin Street area and the waterfront. There's no shortage of local shops and scenery, and it doesn't cost you a penny. Ketchikan is arguably the most walkable port on an Alaska itinerary. If you're on a ship that docks in Ketchikan and not out in Ward Cove, you'll be right downtown, which means you can walk off and immediately start exploring without paying for transportation. Creek Street is the must-see there. It's a historic boardwalk built over Ketchikan Creek that used to be the town's red light district, and it's now lined with shops and local character. It's free to walk and genuinely interesting. During salmon season, you can even watch salmon running up the creek right underneath your feet. Totem Bite State Historical Park is a short ride away. It has one of the best collections of totem poles in Alaska, and it's free to enter, so if you want to understand the culture behind what you're seeing, this is the place to do it. The waterfront and Thomas Basin Boat Harbor are also worth a walk. It's a working fish harbor, and it has a completely different feel from the tourist areas. It's free, authentic, and exactly the kind of thing you don't get on a bus tour. And then there's Skagway, and this is where the cruise lines make a lot of money because the big sell here is the White Pass and Yukon Route Railroad. And it's a beautiful experience, but it's also expensive. But there's good news. If you want to book the train excursion, book directly with the train lines and you'll save nearly half of what you will for the same exact experience than if you book through the cruise lines. But if you have a group of people, there's an even better option that's quite a bit cheaper than the train when split between multiple people. Rent a car and drive up the South Klondike Highway yourself. You'll cover the same scenery the train does, and you can stop wherever you want, and there's no big crowds to fight. And before you go, download Murray's Guide. It's free, it's put together specifically for people driving this route, and it tells you exactly what you're looking at and where to stop along the way. And there is a lot to stop for. The drive up to the White Pass summit is dramatic as you wind through mountain terrain with waterfalls, sheer rock faces, and views that open up the higher you climb. You can stop at the Welcome to British Columbia sign for photos, pull over at the world's smallest desert, and if conditions allow, continue on toward Carcross, which has a surprisingly interesting little downtown. And the flexibility of having a car means you experience this at your own pace instead of looking out a train window with hundreds of strangers. For people who want to stay closer to town, Skagway's Downtown Historic District is a National Historic Landmark and completely free to walk. It's one of the best preserved Gold Rush era towns in North America and worth an hour just wandering around. So the simple truth is this: an Alaska cruise on a budget is completely doable if you're willing to be disciplined with the trade-offs. You don't need to spend a fortune to have an incredible experience up there. The scenery is free, the ports reward people who explore on their own, and if you make smart decisions at the booking stage and again when you get to each port, you can do this trip for a fraction of what most people spend. Alaska has a way of making you feel like you stumbled onto the best kept secret in travel, and that feeling is even better when you didn't break the bank to get there. But here's the bad news. Even if you've nailed every single thing we talked about today, there's one area that trips up more budget Alaska cruisers than almost anything else: packing. Because if you pack the wrong things, you're either freezing on a glacier, paying resort prices for gear you forgot, or lugging around a bag that makes the whole trip harder than it needs to be. But the good news? I put together a complete Alaska cruise packing guide that tells you exactly what to bring, what to leave at home, and how to pack smart for the kind of weather Alaska actually throws at you, because it's not what most people expect. So don't stop here, watch that one next, and I'll make sure your packing doesn't undo everything you just planned for. I'll see you over there. If you're ready, I am. Let's go.